Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm so happy that you stopped by. We have an incredible event tonight, and it's very interesting. So what happened was when I went to my mother's house, who's elderly, she happened to have this book and asked me if I wanted it because we used to travel out west when I was young. All the time we went west. We always went west. And my dad was born and raised in Montana, so he was very aware of the native people and that. And so this book was picked up in the 60s by my parents, and it's called Chief Joseph's People and Their War by Alvin M. Josephy Jr. And so this is the cover of the book that I have here. I'm not going to read the whole book to you, but I do want to start out reading it to you. And then I want to tell you about this chief. So basically what happened was I wondered if I could communicate with this chief. And the cards indicated that I did not have the right tarot deck to communicate with him. And so I said, well, what deck do I need? And it felt like his presence came in very strong. And he said, you need the Native American Tarot. And I'm like, okay, what is that? I don't even have anything like that. So, of course, I found that on Amazon, and I found the Native American Tarot, and I just purchased it. I haven't used it yet. And as you can see, this is very Native American. I can read you what the back says. Tarot knowledge combined with shamanism of Native Americans. Wisdom and strength come from harmony with the forces of nature. 78 meditative cards with instructions. So I am very honored if I will be able to communicate with Chief Joseph with these cards. And I haven't tried until now. I decided to do it on my YouTube channel. So it was June 1877, a year after the Custer debacle, and a new unexpected Indian outbreak flared in the West. To an American public who was weary and disgusted with the governmental policy, or lack of policy, that seemed to breed Indian wars, this one was an uprising by formerly peaceful Nez Perces of Oregon and Idaho, was dramatized by what appeared to be superb Indian generalship. One army detachment after another, officered by veterans of the Civil War, floundered in battle with the hostiles. Western correspondents telegraphed of the progress of the great 1,300-mile fighting retreat by the Indians, swaying popular imagination in the belief of the valiant Nez Perces and one of their leaders, Chief Joseph, who was as handsome and noble in appearance as a Fenimore Cooper Indian, was elevated in public opinion into something combined of a national hero and a military genius. So we're going to learn a little bit about the history of Chief Joseph. He was born in the Wallowa Valley of what is now Oregon in 1840. He got the name Joseph the Younger from his father, who took the name Joseph upon being baptized in 1838. He was an active supporter of peace with the whites. Joseph helped Washington's territorial governor set up the Nez Perces Reservation that stretched from Oregon into Idaho in 1855. But after gold was discovered in the territory in 1863, the federal government took back almost 6 million acres and left the Nez Perces with a reservation in Idaho that was less than 1/10 of what it was promised. Joseph responded by denouncing the United States, destroying his American flag and Bible, and refusing to sign any treaty making the new reservation boundaries official. Joseph died in 1871, and his son was elected to succeed him as the leader of the Nez Perces. In 1873, a federal order called for the removal of white settlers from the lands promised to the Nez Perces, but that order was soon rescinded. In 1877, General Oliver Otis Howard threatened to launch a cavalry attack against any and all Nez Perces refusing to move to the reservation. Believing military resistance to be futile, Joseph reluctantly started out for Idaho. Along the way, a small group of warriors decided to retaliate by raiding some nearby settlements, killing several whites, after which the army began actively pursuing Joseph and his followers. Although he opposed war and truly believed his people would be better off agreeing to life on a reservation, Joseph agreed to march toward Canada, where his warriors hoped to join forces with the Sioux living there. All along the 1,400-mile march, Joseph's band of less than 700 Nez Perces, of whom more than 200 were warriors, fought some 2,000 soldiers in 4 major battles and numerous skirmishes. But the battles took their toll, and by October 5th, 1877, it became obvious to Joseph that surrender was the only way to save what remained of his people, and formally surrendered. And they made it to within 40 miles of Canada. When Joseph surrendered, he did so with the understanding that he and his followers would be allowed to return to their traditional home. The federal government, however, had taken them to a reservation in Indian Territory, present-day Oklahoma. In 1879, Joseph was allowed to travel to Washington, D.C., where he made a personal appeal to President Rutherford B. Hayes, but his request was to be allowed to return home went unheeded. Joseph was finally allowed to return to Pacific Northwest in 1885, but was forced to live on a Colville Indian reservation, a Nez Perces reservation in northern Washington, and he died there in 1904. Despite his popular name, Joseph was never considered a chief by the Nez Perces, nor was he a warrior. However, he was respected by his people and considered an official representative of the Nez Perces by the federal government. So, he was a stunning and strong, but you can see he was compassionate. Here was his tribe. Here he was going to Washington. He did not look impressed in this picture to me. So his people endured a lot of hardships. And at one point, when Joseph was old, he fearfully counseled his son as he lay dying. And he said, quote, "When I'm gone, think of your country. You are the chief of these people. They look to you to guide them. Always remember that your father never sold his country. You must stop your ears whenever you are asked to sign a treaty selling your home. A few years more, and white men will be all around you. They have their eyes on this land. My son, never forget my dying words. This country holds the bones of your father's body. Never sell the bones of your father and your mother." So the other thing that Chief Joseph had didn't want to sign any more treaties because of the dishonesty and that none of them were honored long term. And so he got to the point where he was not going to trust them anymore. And that was the way he lived his life, with high integrity. Unfortunately, he was not, the white people then did not have high integrity. And so per his request, I did purchase this Native American tarot deck, and I'm going to see if we can communicate with Chief Joseph. Now, normally, you guys know I always use the steampunk. But I ordered this just to communicate with Chief Joseph, and he evidently approved of this deck. So I haven't even shuffled or looked at this deck. I haven't even shuffled or looked at it yet. So I'm going to ask Chief Joseph to please come forward and give a message. If you could just give a message of what you want to communicate right now. This is the Ace of Swords. Oh, this card gets them in depth. I don't know if you can see the details in here, but there's definitely, I have to get a little bit closer to my card. There's definitely a conflict, or still conflicts. He feels like there's still conflicts going on right now, because you can see the figure in the center with all that activity going on around him. So it's a verbal conflict even to this day. So he's recognizing that his people, even to this day, are suffering. Oh yeah, and they're being called upon. Now this is Nine of Wands, so some of these battles are also spiritual battles. This is the Nine of Wands. It's just a history of being always like standing your ground. There's just a history of having to set boundaries and stand your ground. This is an interesting deck, and I have to tell you, it is a little bit complicated for me to read. It's not easy. The Three of Swords is about loss. There's been a great loss. So he's talking about the great loss to his people of the land and even the animals, which I'm sure that the white people killed far more animals than what they needed to. What else do you have to say, Chief Joseph? This is the Emperor. So they're holding tribal council. Are you talking about on Earth, Joseph, Chief Joseph, or are you talking about up in spirit world? Because this is tribal council, and they're calling on their ancestors. They call on their ancestors for a higher vision. Oh, now he's coming through a little more clear. Thank you, Chief Joseph, for doing that, because I was feeling like I couldn't communicate with you through these cards very well. But you're saying that the American Native American flute and the drumming and the tools, the shamans are traveling to the underworld to get the higher visions. They're traveling to the underworlds, or whatever that means, to the other realms, to lay down the weapons, Look at the battle going on in the background. I mean, they're getting a buffalo, but you can see that the weapons are laying here. The weapons are laid down. Lay down the weapons. Stop the battling. You know, he was very peaceful. And this is justice. Oh my gosh. Justice is going to be served. Now, this is Chief Joseph saying, this is the justice card. There's going to be justice served for his people. And is this current time now, or do you mean it's already been served, or you mean current time justice is going to be served for your people? So Knight of Swords, this is the current time, and there's going to be more of a sense of freedom for his people like they've never had before. He's riding this horse without any reins or anything. He's riding this horse free. Okay, how do you imagine that this freedom is going to come, Chief Joseph? Do you have a vision on that? The devil. So this would be like the devil. So the evil, or the cycle of evil, or evil is going to be confronted. Wow. So the evil is going to be confronted. Wow, he's riding a wolf here. Knight of Chalices. And there's a rabbit, and this feels really good. It feels like they're living in harmony in a village. This card looks like they're living in harmony in a village, and everything is peaceful here. So he is indicating, is this gonna be like soon? Do you envision this happening soon, where this kind of peace and happiness is gonna happen to your people? Five of Pentacles, they've endured much suffering. Within 5 years, are you saying? Is that 5 years? I feel like that's 5 years. Within 5 years, things are going to completely turn around. That's the Hangman. In 5 years, things are going to completely turn around. What do you want? What do you want people to know now? I feel like he wants to talk to all people, not just natives. He wants to talk to all people. Knight of Pentacles. Wow, there's sure a lot of knights coming up in here. And he's like, keep your focus. This is like, keep your focus and ask for higher visions. Ask for higher visions. Talk to nature. I feel like he's telling me, I really am honing in on him right now. Very compassionate. And I feel like he's telling me, to keep your vision, and keep your thoughts high and your integrity high. And he said that I stood up when I needed to stand up. And I'm pulling, there he is, Chief Joseph. Look at him in all of his magnificence in the magician card. And he's like, you have to stand up for what you believe is right, but you don't have to fight. There's a difference. You can stand up for what you believe is right, but you don't have to fight. Wow. That is interesting, because our society is so, look at here, spiritual wisdom. And there's the chief in the background. There he is. Oh my God. So in spirit, he and the Perez, or the Nez Perces, however you pronounce, I hope I'm not mutilating their name, they're bonded together in spirit. That's Six of Wands, to bring down to earth peace and harmony. I almost feel like I'm going to start seeing feathers. I wonder if you guys will too, from Chief Joseph. Will you pay attention if you start noticing feathers? Because I feel like those who are watching this are getting a really powerful message from Chief Joseph. And I feel like feathers are messages from spirit. And I'm just really honed into the feathers. Please put in the comments if you run across any feathers. He is coming through really clear. So this is the Hermit. The journey. Often our journey in life feels like we're alone, and he's telling it's like tangled up. Nobody's journey is ever straight. It's all entangled in the civilizations that you live in. This is what he's saying. Nobody's journey is fully alone. You're entangled in the civilizations that that are impressed upon you. And he's talking about the snake energy is everywhere. So you have to beware of the snake energy, because they bite. They bite. And they can be camouflaged. And they come out and they bite. Oh, but this is the Sun card. He says, always keep your sights on the sun. Everything they did was thankful that the sun shone so their crops could grow. And he said then they were thankful for the rain because the crops could grow. And they were thankful for the ground because the crops could grow. And they were thankful for each other who harvested the crops so they could eat. And they were thankful for the women who ground down the grains so they could eat. And they were thankful for the babies who grew into adults with wisdom and skills in different areas. So he brings through this entire line of blessings, that there's blessings in all around us, and it's not just people. It's the land, it's the sun, it's the trees, it's the shade, it's the wood that builds your house. You have to find the blessings of everyday life and be thankful for what you have. And he said we have to learn to live with just what we need and not have so much excess. He is really, really coming through quite strong now. And he's saying that what is wrong with people today is that they have a lack of so many things and they don't have contentment. And so they lack peace. They lack inner peace. They lack contentment. They're not happy with anything the way it is. And he said as soon as they receive something that might make them happy, it's a roller coaster on to the next thing, because the happiness is not sustainable. And he said that's because happiness isn't brought about by material things. It's brought about by who you are inside and what your connection is to the planet and to all life upon it, not just other humans. We had Indians who simply lived alone, who chose to leave the tribes and go live alone, and they had very happy lives, not connecting with any other human beings. They were thoroughly connected with the land and all of life upon it. So happiness does not have to be driven by your connection to other people. Wow. I feel like this is important information for people. He indicates that movement in life is movement on the earth. When one moves on the earth, when one moves their feet on the earth moves with you in harmony. And the right animals would appear when you went on a hunt. you sometimes went on a hunt and never knew what animal you were coming home with, but it was always the animal that your family needed to sustain life. That magic of the earth providing for what you need has never gone away. He's saying that what you need will always be provided for if you keep your heart in a good space and you count blessings and you see the blessings in everyday life and you see the higher vision and you connect with Mother Earth and Father Sky. He said, this is my biggest advice to you, is to connect with Mother Earth and Father Sky. And in this way, you'll live your life with integrity and you'll be provided with exactly what you need at the very time that you need it. So I want to thank Chief Joseph for coming through with these cards, and I will definitely study these cards because they have wisdom in them, and it indicates that you can meditate on one of these cards, and I'm actually going to do that. So I want to express my gratitude for you, what you did for the people that you loved, and that you lived your life with integrity even when you were surrounded by people that lacked integrity. So I also want to thank those of you who are subscribing to my channel, and I appreciate every single one of you. And I'll see you on the next video.